for every player before they actually do.
Yeah, and
before Giannis won it last year.
Yeah. Same thing.
It's the same for every player.
Only player.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show. As always, we stream to you guys live through DSM Media's Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook channel. So if you're new to the channel, head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. Click the link tree in our bio to take you to every social media platform we are available on. Of course, I'm one half of your host here, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter @DylanJD98. And today I have a very special guest joining me, 97.5 The Fanatics' own Connor Thomas. And my man wears a lot of hats over
yes, sir.
97.5. He's a producer for the John Kincaid Show. He has his own podcast called Locked On Phillies Podcast, I believe. So he wears a lot of hats. My man, thank you for staying patient with me. We had this scheduled a couple times, but we're finally getting to do it. So thanks for coming on.
You're good, man. No problem. I'm happy to do it. Good to be here with you, Dylan.
All right, so let's jump right into the topic at hand, right, which is the Philadelphia 76ers. First and foremost, where's your confidence level at right now? What's your anxious level? Because I don't see a way they lose tonight. I go back to the Hawks series game 6. I go back to the Toronto series game 6, and I just see it going back to Miami. But at the same time, when you get punched in the mouth the way they did in game 5 and you lose by 30 plus, it's tough to see them, getting their stuff together tonight.
Yeah, man. I'm in a little bit of a weird spot, right? Because I feel confident when you look at it on paper. I think they're still the better team. And you saw it in game 5 against Toronto. They just came out and they had a flat game. So we've seen what happened in game 5 of this series where they just didn't show up against Miami. Well, we've seen them do it before. The thing in the back of my mind, though, is like you learn a lot about a team when they're up against the wall and they're facing elimination. This is the first game that the Sixers team has faced elimination in their current state. So it's like, yeah, you have paper and you have an idea of the blueprint of what this team does in these type of situations, but they never faced elimination against Toronto. They hadn't really seen pressure like this in the regular season, of course, because you never do. So it's like, how is this team going to respond to the, hey, we got to get this back to Miami. We got to win on our home floor. Every team's different, and some teams just don't have the ability to push the series that extra game for whatever reason. So that's worrying me, but my gut right now is telling me this is a win. It's a comfortable win tonight, and we're going back to Miami for game 7.
Yeah, well, what did Danny Green say in the Toronto series? We got to nut up or shut up or whatever his quote was. But look, before we get into tonight's game, I just have to gloss over game 5 because it was a train wreck, man. And I don't know why this has been a problem throughout Doc Rivers' tenure or Joel Embiid's tenure here, but the word effort or lack thereof from the Sixers team continues to be something we talk about. And then when you hear Doc on the TNT, broadcast when he's mic'd up, almost pleading with them to hustle out there, right? You're getting outworked, pleading for effort, right? How much of game 5 was on lack of effort and how big of a problem? Obviously, it's a huge problem, but how worried are you about that going forward, even if they were to win tonight?
Yeah, so it's something I actually talked about on the morning show, on the John Kincaid Show over on The Fanatic earlier this week when we recapped this game. It's like there's a difference between lack of heart and lack of effort. Lack of heart is like what you see from Ben Simmons, a guy who just doesn't have any interest ever playing the sport, has nothing inside him that makes him a competitor. That's an issue. Lack of effort can happen. Like anyone could show up. You could be the hardest worker in the world, Dylan, but sometimes you show up and there's a show where maybe you just like, man, I had a long day. I kind of mailed it in on that one. So it's not necessarily a repeatable thing. Like they're guaranteed they're going to do it again. It's an issue that they did it at all in the first place. But again, we saw it in game 5 against Toronto. It's like sometimes this team, and it doesn't absolve them of responsibility, but sometimes this team just has games where they sleepwalk and then they bounce back the next game where they look like a different team in the subsequent game. So I'm not too worried about it carrying over, but it's definitely an effort thing. You can kind of tell right off the bat. I don't know about you, but I was like 2 minutes into that game. And when they have issues, you can see offensively right off the bat, they're playing iso ball. They're not moving. They're no back.
Every shot clock's down to 3 seconds.
Exactly. And when they're good at the start of the game, you see them move the ball. When they're bad, you get that immediate feeling of like, man, they're not trying right now. So that was it in game 5, and it just compiled.
For sure. And listen, there's no answer. There's no real answer to my next question, but I just had to throw it out there. Like, have you ever seen, I can't like go back and think in my short memory, a playoff series, have such drastic home court, measures going on, right? Like both sides. Like we're analyzing it from a 76er side. You could analyze it from a Miami Heat fan side as well. Like if you're them, okay, we shot the lights out in games 1 and 2, beat them by double digits each game. We go to Philly. They can't miss. We shoot under 20% or under 25% from 3. We come back home. We don't miss. We hold them to sub 80 points, right? There's no answer to it, but have you ever seen this before? Like it's crazy.
No, it's weird, man. And a big part of it is like, well, you had an MVP caliber swing between games 1 and 2 and games 3 and 4. But that doesn't explain, with Joel Embiid coming back, obviously. But that doesn't explain what's going on with game 5 and going back down there. Getting your show run again, not being able to shoot on the road either team. It's weird. And it's not just home court advantage. And that's what worries me because it's like, that's an anomaly, right? It's weird to us. So it makes me feel like that it's not going to go on forever.
Yeah.
And, well, that could mean that game 6, which is a away game for Miami, could be that one where it plays through.
Or game 7.
That's what we're hoping, right? But it is weird, and it won't carry on forever. So one of these games is going to be a road win for one of these teams. So we'll see if the Sixers can force 7 and steal it. But that's part of also what has me worried about game 6 tonight.
For sure. All right. So after that awful effort in Miami for game 5, I guess let's look at it through Doc's eyes. If you're him, what adjustments are you making, heading into game 6? Because part of me looks at game 4 and I look at how, Joel didn't have the ball every possession like we're accustomed to seeing in the regular season. And it was get him, not on the block, but get him involved and whatever. They took him away and it was the James Harden show. The others made shots, right? In game 5, they took Joel away. If you just watch him battle with Bam or the 2 or 3 bodies they throw at him every possession, he can't get position. He's getting the ball out at the 3-point line or not touching it at all. And then it's, like you said, it's James Harden, dribble, ISO, and it's a bad shot and a late shot clock. What can you do if you're Doc, do you think, to adjust to that? I know that's a tough thing for Doc to do, but what can you do to get Joel more touches early to try to get him? I know it's tough to get him in one-on-one situations, but to open him up a little bit more.
Yeah, so I'll start off this saying, I'm not a huge fan of Doc Rivers as the coach of this basketball team. But what I'll say is, like, I got no qualms with anything he's done so far this series. Like, I don't think any of this so far is on him. And because the first 2 losses, well, you don't have Joel Embiid, how much can you do with DeAndre Jordan and Paul Reed? Right. And in the game 5 loss, well, man, your team just didn't show up from the beginning. And you brought up what we were hearing on the TNT broadcast about him pleading for more effort. So I'm not putting this on Doc as much as I'm like, I have issues with what Doc Rivers does when he coaches a basketball team, especially in the playoffs. I can't fault him for anything so far this series. But if I was going to change one thing, so they've been fronting Joel Embiid since game 3 on, right? Or game 4 on, because they didn't really do it all that much in game 3. They were trying to figure out how to defend him. And then Spoelstra decided, well, we're going to front him and we're going to have them try and make those entry passes over the top.
Which they cannot do.
No, they can't. And what you saw in game 4 a little bit was the free throw line area was open. The perimeter was being defended really well. The paint was being defended really well to take away Joel Embiid. And Joe can't get to the free throw line because they're fronting. So what needs to happen is you need to get someone like Tobias Harris, someone like it shouldn't be Matisse because he's a liability offensively, but like a Tyrese Maxey. Ideally, it's Tobias because you have the length. Right. Get the ball at that free throw line area that's been open, and then either spread it to the wings, get it down low to Joel from there, because they're trying either to get it too deep with Joel.
You close the gap on the entry pass. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I would do different that looks like was open, but man, just better effort is all you really need.
I also wonder, it's the most cliche and corny thing to say, dude, but if you just hit open shots, that's been the story from the road and at home. Tobias Harris missed a couple bunnies in game 5. Tyrese Maxey missed a bunch of shots. You sit back and you're like, dude, he makes that 95% of the time. Joel Embiid, same thing with his little mid-range pull-up. So I wonder how much of it just comes down to shot making because they're getting the looks. Defensively, what do you do differently, right? Because here's the way I look at it. Game 4, Jimmy Butler gave you 40 plus, but it didn't matter because no one else showed up and it wasn't enough. The games that Miami's winning, Jimmy's getting 20, 25, but he's facilitating, getting involved on the glass, getting others involved, and then they're three-point shooters and everybody else are making plays. Defensively, what do you do different? Do you throw more zone at them? But if you throw zone at this Miami Heat team and they're on fire, that's an easy way to break a zone. So
you can't go zone against this team because they're just so good shooting the basketball. Right. They're the best team in the regular season shooting, and I don't care that the game's in Philadelphia and they shoot significantly worse on the road. Zone just opens up too much of an opportunity for them to just shoot you to death in this game. What I'm doing, and what Doc never does, he absolutely never does this, and it drives me crazy about the way he manages his rotations. Like, there's plenty of teams out there. Like, the thing you think about that I think back to is this a famous reaction gift that we see all the time. LeBron at the free throw line when they're facing the Spurs, and he looks and he sees Kawhi Leonard coming back into the game in the finals. And he gives that, oh, come on, man. Like, I just match up your best defender with their best player and play him the entirety of their minutes. So whether that's Tobias Harris every time Jimmy Butler's on the floor, he's got to be out there, he's got to be defending, or Matisse Thybulle against either Jimmy Butler or Tyler Hero. However you do that, defensively, that's the only thing I would change. Have those guys on the same amount of time. Give them the exact same minutes in rotation. Now, Doc has set rotations. He'll never do it. That's what I personally would change. But I can't go zone because of that. I'm keeping that man up that they've been doing. And, yeah, that's what you're going to have to do. You're just going to have to, like we brought up, nut up and play stronger defense effort-wise to win this one.
Listen, it's funny because you're right. Doc hasn't done anything this entire postseason run so far that's, attributed to a loss for the 76ers. But it does worry me. Like, you have to adjust heading into this game. And his ego is just too large to head into a game and say, okay, I need to do something differently tonight. Like you said, he has his set rotations. He's not going to match minutes. He's not going to stagger minutes well. It's what he does. And we'll see whether it helps them tonight or bites them in the you-know-what. But, all right. Looking at the star players tonight, because we can get into X factors and the others stepping up. Obviously, we know George Niang needs to hit a shot or he's on play. But not to go on a tangent, but that's something wrong with this roster. There are too many guys that if they don't do the one specific thing they do well, they're unplayable.
Yeah, exactly.
Danny Green, if he's not hitting threes, cannot play. George Niang, same exact thing. Matisse Thybulle, good to great defender, can't do anything else. Right? So it's like we could talk about the others, but tonight's going to be all about Joel Embiid and or what James Harden you get. So we'll start with Joel. I do have to ask you about your thoughts on the Shaq and Chuck comments at halftime.
Yeah, dude, I don't buy at all that he was thinking about the MVP award.
He knew for weeks.
Yeah, and that's the thing that was kind of crazy. There was this whole narrative that took off all of a sudden, like the past week or so, where it's like, oh, I think he's getting the award. I think he's getting the award, that, and everything. And rumors aside, even feeling like the award has been voted on for multiple weeks now. Why all of a sudden would the narrative just change? That was always weird to me because when the voting closed, when the regular season
and we
ended,
saw the list.
Okay, it's Jokic. Yeah. So I think he's known. I think that's more of a narrative they're trying to create. Really what I think it was, dude, he got on the plane for the first time to go down to Miami since getting that concussion. That affects you for sure. There's concussions are not like every single day is constantly the same.
Then he got hit in the face with the freaking ball.
Exactly. It just seemed like he had an off night, and like some players fight through that. Joel Embiid, for all of his strengths, I love him. I wouldn't trade him for anybody, but for all of his strengths, he does let injuries affect him mentally. It seems like when he has issues, when he has those little nagging issues. So it seemed like it just got inside his head. The getting smacked, like the ball hit into his face partway through the game didn't help. And it was that. It wasn't the MVP, though. That's completely erroneous, I think, from those guys.
I think Tyrone at 97.5 tweeted they had that written before the game started. And if this was the outcome at halftime, this is what we're going with. It's almost asinine to think that, right? Like the dude's coming off a concussion, half of his face is broken, and then he got a ball punched into that half of his face.
Yeah, but we got to be fair, though, right? So there was a lot of people tweeting out. They're like, oh, he's going to be angry because he didn't win the MVP.
Yeah.
We got to be fair both ways. So we're guilty of it our way. But like what's oftentimes right is the more in the middle thing where it's just like, no, he's just going out and playing basketball. I mean, I'm thinking Philly still basketball, and he had a rough night. So it's like, I get how you could jump to that, but I don't think they're right.
Right. Oh, no, 100%. And that is another thing that people do in the city when they fall in love with players, they somehow become uncritiquable. I don't know if that's a word, but we're going to roll with it. But he's not above criticism. And there are nights where he just looks sluggish or not into it. That's gone away over the last 2 years for the most part. But it just came at a really bad moment. Like when you could have possibly stolen a road game and then come back to close things out in 6. It couldn't have come at a worse time for him to get inside his own head, and then it just kind of trickled down the rest of the team. So what Joel Embiid do you think we will see tonight?
Yeah, he's going to be dominant. He's going to be good. He had time. They flew back to Philly. He had the day off. He had a chance to get settled in. He's going to be dominant again. And I think, honestly, we probably see the best game of the series so far from him tonight because he is a grown man now. He is a guy that, like, okay, I've been in closeout situations before. I've fought off elimination. I've been eliminated. I've eliminated other teams. This is like the point where he's really become the prime Joel Embiid, the prime NBA player, where like that 27 to 28-year-old, well, that's when you start winning championships. So I know he's going to step up in the spot. My worry is not about him. My worry is not about James Harden, because I know for all of his faults and like whether it's the hamstring or age, like he's also a guy who's been around the block.
Right.
I'm looking at guys like George Niang, Furkan Korkmaz if he gets
run, the others.
Milton. Yeah, that's where I'm worried that the difference in this game is going to be. The Tyrese Maxey, because even though Maxey's been unbelievable this year, these are situations where the guys who have been in these spots and are used to this pressure are normally going to be able to handle it better. So I got no worries about Joel tonight.
So if you had to give an X factor, who would it be?
That's a great question. I got to go with George Niang, to be honest with you,
wow.
because he hasn't done anything in this series.
Oh, dude.
And he's he's a good enough shooter. Like, and he has playoff experience. Like, we think about him like, oh, it's his first year in Philadelphia. This guy's shying away from the moment. He got a lot of playoff experience in his time in Utah. Like, that team was constantly, even though they didn't go deep, they were constantly in the playoffs playing in pressure games. They got good run for those teams. Like, he's going to break through eventually. The numbers just say he will. And like Danny Green already has had his moments in shooting wise after games 1 and 2. Tyrese Maxey has bounced back. He's the only one who shoots a good enough percentage that hasn't bounced back. So like he's due for one of those, even if it's a 3 for 5 night, can make all the difference getting 9 points from him instead of 2 or 3.
100%, dude. When this has to still be in your mind. When he chucked up 2 threes in about 17 seconds in Miami to start the second half, I believe it was start the second half. I could be wrong, or the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
they had closed the gap a tiny bit. I think it was to start the fourth quarter. They were down 15, and it's like they're not quite out of it yet. If they can make a run, he barely touches the rim. They get a bucket, or something happens. He gets the ball real quick, throws up another one, barely touches the rim. And I'm just like, get him out, man.
Yeah.
Like when he's not hitting, he's unplayable. But I'm with you. I think Tyrese Maxey plays a huge role tonight. I think he has to, because Joel, even if he's dominant with like you said, how they're fronting him, with how they're throwing 3 bodies at him, with how physical they're going to be. And I don't know. I'm not saying he's shying away from physicality, but he's trying to do everything in his power to not get that thumb and or face smacked every time. Yeah. I don't know that he's going to be able to get you a 30, 35 point type of night. I still have faith in James Harden. I don't know if the Beard has another 31, 32 type of night, 6 of 8 from 3 in him. I think Tyrese Maxey and or Tobias Harris had to be huge, but off the bench, what bothers me about Doc a little bit again is, like, I'm not saying Shake Milton's this hero that's going to come and save the team in game 6, right? But he's the one guy that or that you've seen in the past can come off the bench and get you a bucket. Not shoot well from 3, get you buckets. And he just, game 2, he didn't play Shake at all. He played Shake 8 minutes, 6 minutes. Like, if you need a bucket, if your starting 5 are not, scoring the ball well, if George Niang's not shooting well from 3, why is Shake Milton not a guy you just give a little bit of a leash to? I'm not saying hang him out there, but throw him out there and see if he can jumpstart something.
Yeah, man, Shake's always been a weird thing to me, because for me, the only drawback on Shake is, I don't want to say he like completely shies away from moments, but when he gets in pressure,
he's got that puppy dog shrugging in the shoulders type of.
We saw it when they played Boston in the bubble, and he got the opportunity to play a point guard because Ben was hurt.
Yeah,
and like Joel was like yelling at him on the sidelines because the dude just looked lost out there. Like he'll go and he'll drop a 40 piece on the Clippers in the regular season, but sometimes in big moments he just doesn't show up. He shies away from it a little bit, so that's what worries me about Shake. But talent-wise, he's probably your best all-around player that you're bringing off the bench. It's just how much does Doc trust him, and it seems like not all that much.
All right, so we'll see about that. I know you mentioned you're not worried about James Harden, but I do have to ask you, what do you think he is at this point? I think, and I'm assuming this is going to be a lot of people's answers as well, but he's not the 31-point scorer. He's not Houston Harden, obviously, anymore. But I don't think he's 14 point, 5 of 13, 2 of 12 James Harden. I think he's somewhere in the middle that's going to average 20 to 22 and 8 to 10 assists. Yeah. What do you think he is? And can they win with that James Harden?
Yeah, so he's a 28-8 guy right now in my mind. And that's probably what he's going to be for the rest of his career until he hangs it up. Because the dude can get 20 points in his sleep with how often he gets to the line. He can still shoot it. We saw that in the game, Game 4 win?
Yeah.
Where he was incredible down the stretch. But, the biggest issue with Harden is, I think, our expectations of him coming in, because we didn't watch a lot of him until he came to Brooklyn. It was always the highlights. It was always catching him late night on SportsCenter, what do you do on the West Coast?
Yeah, we didn't see a lot of Houston Rocket basketball.
Right, so you just see the 40, 50-point games. He's had a lot of games like this in his career where he's been 28-8. He just had that, higher level he could get to. They can absolutely win with him being a 28-8 guy. I think the only reason that we're so, against him being that, not saying you are or any particular fan is, but the feeling is shouldn't he be doing more? That's a sentiment I've been gathering from hearing people call in and talk about it. You can absolutely win with it. Think about it. We thought we could win with Ben Simmons giving us 16, 8, and 8.
Oh, that would have been amazing back then.
Right, exactly. And that team was competitive and everything. You can win with James Harden like this. It just puts more of the load on Joel Embiid than we thought. And those other role players. The issue is the bench, too, has to be able to pick more up. Yeah. So can you win? Yes. Will they? This team was built for a James Harden to put up 30. They needed that guy. And since he's not, it's going to be tougher.
Right. It just – I'm one of the James Harden I don't want to say believers because I think 80% of the city probably does still. But I'm one of the guys that believes he's got more than even the 20 left. He's not Houston Harden. He's not 30+. But I think he can still give you 25 on any given night, right? So if he can come out and show up tonight, there's still that fight. When you saw that emotion come out of him after he hit one of the last threes to close out Miami in Game 4, he hears it, dude. He hears the noise. He hears he's washed. He can't people off the dribble anymore. He can't, get that separation anymore. And to their credit right now, he hasn't shown to do that. But when he showed that flash, now it's very disappointing to see him come out and give you 14-4 the following game. But I still think that's in there. And I think throughout a playoff run, if you can get that twice a series with the rest of Harden being 18 to 20 and 10 assists, I think for sure you're going to be able to make a run right now. Getting into tonight's game, very cliche again, but do you have a key? Do you have one specific thing you're looking for? Obviously, offensive glass is one thing they're getting killed by. Effort is something. But what do you have something you're looking at tonight?
Here's the wild thing, right? You look at these two teams. To me, the Sixers are the clearly better team. That's the wild thing about the series. When the Sixers are healthy, I look at the lineup and I'm like, well, I'd take that team. Right. And you saw it in games 3 and 4. Just show up and play your game. If they don't sleepwalk through Game 5, you look at it, the games that they've lost so far, they played 2 without Joel Embiid where they have no shot. Frankly, you can't win without it. But then in Game 5, it's almost like they didn't even take the court. So if you just show up and play your game, they're 2-0 so far this series when they do that. There's nothing special that you have to do to beat this Miami team. They shoot well. They have a lot of effort. They play solid defense. But you're more talented at the 2 positions that matter. You have the best point guard with James Harden. You have the best big man with Joel Embiid. You should be able to win this game and this series if you just show up and put in a regular effort and play your normal game and just keep your wits about you. So now, it's funny. There's not anything specific I'm looking at that has to get done. There's not really a special key because I don't think it's not that deep. Just play your game, understand you're the better team, and have Joel Embiid and James Harden take over, and you're good.
It's funny, man. You say it and you lay it out. And Jimmy Butler at the small forward position, obviously, whoever lines up there, let's say it's Danny Green, obviously it's a win there. But Philly's backcourt, better. Philly front court better. They got Jimmy Butler. We have Danny Green small forward. That's it. So like the fact that you're getting outworked, out hustled. It's not size. It's not you have the biggest player on the court, and then after that, what? Tobias Harris is 6'9", PJ Tucker's 6'8", 6. Like you're just getting outworked. Protect the glass because they are too good of a 3-point shooting team to give multiple possessions to and to get outshot by double digits at times.
But like you're saying, it's just basketball. Just rebound,
right.
just push the ball,
box out.
Exactly. Like it's rec league basketball stuff because they're the more talented team.
Right.
So
turn the ball over less.
Exactly. It's simple. And like even when Jimmy had 33 in game 3, was it game 3 or
I think so.
He had 33 in game 3 and they smoked him. Like Jimmy can get his. And I don't want him to. I still think you take him away. We talked about what I said, what I changed defensively. But like even if he does, you can beat this team even when their best player goes off. So I got no special keys. Just take care of business, guys.
Yeah. I think if I had to give one, you're right. It's very simple. Again, hit open shots, but you have to throw the first punch tonight. You cannot find yourself like I don't want another game where it's halftime and we've played so poorly, but we're only down 8, and it's like, well, we should be happy to be in this position. Throw the first punch, get out ahead, because it seems like every time they get behind Miami just has the next guy to come in. Any Sixers run they go on when they're down 10, 12, there's a guy that comes in, whether it's Tyler Hero, whether it's Gabe Vincent the other night. They come in and they hit back-to-back threes, and it's, you're back down 16.
Or it's freaking Max Strus.
Yeah. You cannot find yourselves down double digits at any point in this game because I don't think they have enough to make that kind of run against this. I just don't see it. But, all right. You going with 6 W tonight?
Yeah, I am. But I don't think it's a blowout. I'm going 4 to 6 points for margin of victory. It's going to be a tough one. Miami's going to give them a fight, but the Sixers end up taking this one, and we got a hell of a Game 7 ready for Sunday.
If you're a gambling person, because you can do win margins, head out there and hit Sixers, whatever that line would be. But I'm with you. I think that I don't see a way in which Philly loses this game tonight. They're too talented. They're at home, which has been a huge difference maker in the series for whatever reason. And I just don't think – I just go back to the stars in Joel Embiid and James Harden. I know James Harden's had his shortcomings and Joel Embiid's never been out of the second round, but I don't think they're going to lose on their home floor against Miami Heat team and losing 6. Whether they win Game 7, I have no idea. They could get blown out by 30 again in Miami. We'll see what Sixers team shows up there. But I do think they force a Game 7 and go back to Miami. Dude, before we get you out of here, I do have, because I know you're a big Phillies guy.
Oh, of course.
You're actually down at the ballpark this year, so I got like 2 questions for you. A, dude, this upcoming stretch is brutal. Like brutal. And I don't want to get like out of control because, by the end of the stretch it'll still be like June. But could this make or break the season in a sense?
I was worried you were going to ask me to make you feel better about the stretch coming up because I can't. This is going to be tough.
Even when they just took 2 or 3 in Seattle.
Yeah, but so there's weird stuff goes on around Major League. Like the Pirates just took a series from this Dodgers team you're about to see. Like it's very possible to go on runs this early in the season, even though the schedule looks brutal. But you're right, man, this is tough. So what you got to do in my mind, it's the schedule's going to get easier. They have a much easier when you look at like their July and August schedule. It's going to get easier down the stretch. You got to play the Nationals a lot more as you get later into the season, stuff like that. You see the Braves for the first time just now, and that Braves team I think is susceptible to falling off late season. You don't have to do anything special. Just maintain, split series, win maybe one, and when you get like San Diego or when you get the Angels, who I think are still a beatable team, stuff like that. But just stay afloat, stay within 2-3 games of 500, one way or the other, and make it through this stretch so that you can make a run late. This Phillies team, I think the biggest difference between this year's team and previous teams that's going to get them in because they have been off to a hot start. I don't need them to get hot in June or July or May like we're in right now. I need them to hang around 500 until you can make that push in September, like the Nationals did when they won the World Series, like the Braves did last year when they won the division in the World Series. I don't care about them getting hot in the summer anymore because we've seen that too many times. Find out how to win in August. So this stretch, just balance it. Just live through it.
I'm with you, dude. This has been maybe the strangest start to a Philly season I can remember. Maybe just because of my overreaching expectations I put on with after the Castellanos and Schwarber signings, but the bullpen outside of the Mets game has been exceptional, I would say. The starters, I think I saw a stat over like the last couple weeks, the starters have a combined ERA of like sub 3 or right around 3, and it's
they've been
top
great.
whatever in the majors. And this lineup has just been so up and down. So, final question for you. The Phillies will turn things around because blank.
Because they're too good not to. I don't know if they're going to compete for the division. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but this team has too many talented players to not be better than they're playing right now. There's no reason. The offense looks good some games, then falls off. The pitching looks good some games, then a bad start. The bullpen look good some games, and then they fall apart. But we've seen flashes. Bad baseball teams, Dill, they look bad across the board for stretches of games. This Phillies team looks good in different areas every single game, and as soon as they put it together, they're too talented not to be in the mix around that 85-game mark when everything's all said and done. So just weather the storm. Water's going to find its level. They're going to be in the mix come the end. Yep.
Something I like to say about the Philadelphia 76ers far too often.
Yeah, right.
Connor, my man, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come on the show. Hopefully chop it up with you soon again. And I promise no more postponements. Had to get that tooth yanked on Tuesday, but we'll drink that pain blood. But guys, check him out on Twitter at ConnorThomas975 if you haven't already. Connor, have a great day, buddy. And enjoy.
Say, man, go Sixers. Let's get one tonight, huh?
Play the song.
Yes, sir. See you, Dylan.
Have a good one. All right, guys. That is Connor Thomas of 97.5 The Fanatic. And that is going to wrap up this Thursday edition of the Phaithful Fanatic Show. Guys, if you're new to the channel, if you're new to DSM Media, head on over to at DSM_media on Twitter. Hit that follow button. Hit the link tree in our bio to take you to every social media platform we are available on as we stream to you guys live. Also on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch channels. We're also on TikTok, Instagram. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We are on everything. We also have a TeePublic site with some show merch, DSM merch, and some Sixers and Phillies designs as well. So go check those out and support DSM Media if you'd like to. There's sales all the time on TeePublic, and sometimes free shipping as well. That is going to wrap up this one, guys. Enjoy the game tonight. Also, Phillies in LA for the Dodgers at 10:10 tonight. Not sure if we'll be seeing that one. Everybody, have a great night.